The Yonko are the single most powerful group of characters in all of One Piece, each of them so strong and influential that one of them alone can shape world events, start entire wars, and control entire patches of ocean. Whether it's the first generation of Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard, or the new generation of emperors, Luffy, Buggy, Blackbeard, and Shanks, the emperors are the only pirates in One Piece who are actually capable of competing for the title of Pirate King and pose a real threat to the entire world government. And each single one of them is not only a walking natural disaster, but they often also have massive fleets, powerful crews, and unique weapons at their disposal as well. And yet, Oda has also made sure that no matter how strong a Yonko crew may seem, each single one of them would also have a unique and fatal weakness that can be used to take each of them down, and we will reveal all 7 of each Yonko in this video. First up on the chopping block being the infamous, the mysterious, and the incredibly powerful Red Hair Pirates. They are so fierce that they can stop the Marineford War in its entirety just by showing up. You know, I bet you that Shanks has a pair of black Air Forces too, because he's got that energy, that's for sure, but it's not just him. Obviously, I could go on and on and on about Mihawk's rival, the man who inspired Luffy and Roger's apprentice. Like, there's no doubt that this dude is one of, if not the strongest Yonko in the current story. After all, he is the only one to be a part of 2 different generations. But no, it's not just him alone. Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo, and Yasop, all of them are just top level threats that can strike fear into even the admirals and other pirate crews. And so the question here really is, how do you beat that? Well, there is a couple of ways actually. First and foremost, they definitely are all an inverted pyramid when it comes to their power structure. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, it's just that everything really hinges entirely on Shanks. It's something that they have in common with the Straw Hats actually, but we'll talk more about that later on. This just means that all of the pressure and power starts at a really small focus point, Shanks. It all balances on the back of him and then his officers just above him. Now, it turns out that the Red Hair Grand Fleet is actually really massive, something that we learned during the Egghead Island arc when we see them on Elbaf, but they'll all crumble in instants without Shanks being around. So if you are just powerful enough to cut him down, the fleet will crumble instantaneously, leaving just a few mild powerhouses to take down, no different than the Whitebeard pirates after Marineford basically. But that's actually not all, because the exact opposite is also this crew's other major weakness, something that we saw when he absolutely dismantled Eustace Kit. It really is just so hard to imagine him losing a major battle, but really if anyone somewhat stronger than Kit stepped to his fleet, I mean, he might very well have. I actually have a somewhat sneaky suspicion here that this is how Blackbeard managed to mangle his face in the first place. I mean, if you have 1 or 2 additional powerhouses, like the Monster Trio for example, you could absolutely lure Shanks into a real death trap. And so since his Grand Fleet is just incredibly weak, I mean, look at these dudes, seriously, what's their name? Like Garotini, Fugar, Pururu? Yikes. They are a massive Achilles heel for the Red Hair Captain. When they're threatened, Shanks and his officers are absolutely necessary in order to stop anyone who actually poses a real threat. I mean, let's just say that Frankie prepped a radical beam like Kit and aimed it at the Red Hair fleet. Obviously, Shanks would have to rush in order to defeat him, but waiting in the wings are Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, and Jinbei, so Shanks might just be screwed by that alone. He either has to let his own crew die, which we pretty much know he would probably never do based on his reactions to the violence during Luffy's kidnapping, Marineford, and the Elbaf battle, or Shanks has to just go headfirst into the trap willingly. And if he does, he might very well be toast. Whether it's Kaido, Whitebeard, Blackbeard, or even Luffy, if any fierce crew forced him into that tight spot, he would probably die. And if that actually happened, no matter if Shanks is the strongest Yonko, as I mentioned already, the crew would instantly crumble around him as well. So in other words, sorry Shanks, but being a good guy comes with one fatal weakness: having a good heart. So let's talk about someone completely heartless instead. Blackbeard, you're up next, and I guess I shouldn't say completely heartless because you may actually have 3 hearts cards, 3 times what other people have, or I guess so one of the theories go. But how do we actually take you and your very overpowered devil fruit-filled crew down? Not to mention all of the pirates of Hachinosu as well. And to be quite honest, surprisingly, this dude leaves himself open to so many losses, it's actually not even funny. Like, if he wasn't a really big bad guy that somehow needed to make it to the end of the series and just mirror Luffy in so many ways, he would have probably died a long time ago. And the main reason for that is because his crew is just incredibly divided, both emotionally but also quite literally, because when's actually the last time we saw all of the Blackbeard pirates in one bunch together? I mean, they are constantly going around in pairs of 3 to 4 people trying to accomplish Teach's goal, only attacking when other people are weakened or fragmented or not expecting them to show up, like their attacks on Whole Cake Island or on Egghead Island as well. If they actually got ambushed or pinched by a strong crew like the Red Hair Pirates or even a unit like Germa, you could probably slowly pick off the Titanic captains in small chunks one by one, especially when you account for their one glaring weakness, Haki and the ocean. Because during Egghead Island, these anchors were shown to heavily burden this Yonko group in particular. I mean, Garp was able to nearly single-handedly take on half of the crew, and even someone like Kobe seems to be powerful enough to one-shot a huge threat like 4th Captain Pizarro with his friendship fist, or whatever Kobe's actually calling that attack. I don't know, man. At this point, there's just so many attack names in this franchise, it's really hard to remember ones that only happen one time. Honesty Impact, that's what it's called. All right, and honestly, something like that is a pretty brutal blow to this Titanic crew based on devil fruit users alone. But Law was actually the one who showed us how bad their other sandbag was, because when you give everyone and their mother, or I guess horse in that case, a devil fruit, your squads are gonna really struggle in the deep end, if you know what I mean. They're like that annoying 5-year-old nephew that won't stop screaming at you about snack time. If you toss them in the deep end, they'll shut up real quick, unless they are Aokiji. I guess he doesn't have that weakness as like the only exception to that rule. I mean, he does, but he also hard counters it with his ocean freezing power, so it's way less potent than normal, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't even think that he counts here, because we all know he's not actually evil, right? But anyways, yes, someone could manipulate the ocean like Law's crew or Prime Whitebeard, then sinking these fools right here wouldn't be that hard of a threat if they're out on the ocean, assuming the rest of the crew could actually hold their own while you sink the ships. I'm looking at you directly, Law. I mean, you botched it pretty badly. You and Kidman, you guys would have been fine if you had slightly stronger crews around you, so bit of a shame right there. At least your J-pop fanboy Polar Bear saved you in the end, so shout out to Big Dog Beppo for single-handedly saving Bandai and Banpresto's action figure sales right there. Regardless though, if you can keep Kuzan and Van Auger somewhat busy, you can send this crew to Davy Jones's locker pretty quickly, but you might not even need to do that, because the real weakness of this crew is individualism. Like, funnily enough, they all have an art school kind of vibe where they all think that they are better than each other and everyone else as well. It's literally their branding, as we saw in chapter 1081. Like, they aren't friends or true comrades, they all just have aligned interests, but if a better opportunity to seize their goals would appear, or Teach showed any weakness, I'm pretty certain half of this crew would just throw Marshall D. Teach under a bus, especially if that bus was in 5th gear. And honestly, at this point, taking down Shanks and Blackbeard is a lot clearer than I thought it would be on paper, but I do promise the last few crews on this list are far from easy. Unlike our next one, the notorious Criminal Empire Cross Guilds. Now, this ragtag group of former warlords is surprisingly stable. There's no clear weakness on the surface, they've got stable income, roaring crew support, especially for Buggy, and are surprisingly powerful across the board. Especially with their 3 leaders around, they are far from an easy crew to take down by anyone. But also, that in turn is probably also their biggest flaw. The top brass is really impressive, but other than that, well, let's just say that they can't quite hold their own against everyone else. I mean, yeah, Hawkeye, Sir Crocodile, and I guess even Buggy are hard to take down, but The next 3 in line are Bones, Galdino, and Alvida. I mean, all of these are East Blue level threats with maybe the exception of Mr. One. Like, Luffy and the crew took all of them down without Haki, for goodness sake. Maybe not Bones, you're a little bit stronger, but not that strong, unless Oda gave them like an insane power-up recently too, which at this point honestly might even be the case if we're being real. But basically what that means is if you can handle Mr. Zero, the Marine Hunter, and the Killer Clown here, then Cross Guild will end up sinking. But that's way easier said than done, of course. Now, somehow I actually think that Crocodile is the weakest out of the 3 here. Not in power, of course, that's gonna be Buggy. Not in speed or skill either, because that's gonna be Buggy as well, duh. And quite frankly, in most ways, it's gonna be Buggy, but somehow that dude is slippery and way harder to actually handle one-to-one. Not to mention that taking him down is actually the wrong play because he's practically the Joe Rogan of the One Piece world somehow. If you destroy him, I think it would cause a great clown crusade, and the world would just burn in the glorious and eternal name of Buggy the Clown because he just goofed his way up there. And let's face it, water splashes completely undo the Croc. Like, if he comes face to face with the wrong kid with a water balloon, he's just out for the count, especially in a world where Haki negates his powerful Logia fruit anyways. Then again though, I don't really know how you would defeat Mihawk though, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I genuinely think you'd need like 3 to 4 Yonko tier level threats to surround him, or just hope that he switches to your side in the end because he's smart enough to cut his losses and stay on the winging side in the end anyways. After all, that's kind of the only reason why he's with Cross Guild to begin with, right? Or did I miss something here? But now that we have nearly talked about the entire modern era of Yonko, I think it's time that we shifted back a little bit in time and talked about the first generation of Emperors as well. And I'm also not talking about both the old wretches that we saw lose in the story. We are talking here about their prime form, like the Edward Newgate who took on Roger's entire crew, or the Kaido who freed King from the world government single-handedly and overthrew all of Wano, and of course the Big Mom who was actually kind of a baddie if we're being honest. Okay, Lin, I definitely see how you were able to pull off having so many kids if that's what you looked like in your prime. But anyways, let's start with the man, the myth, the legend, Whitebeard, or as I like to call him, the One Piece Vin Diesel. Captain Edward Toretto, Dom Newgate, the pacifier. Okay, you get the point. They are both all about family. And to be entirely real with you, this is just an unbelievably hard matchup. It took the entire world government and the warlords to manage to somewhat stop this crew alongside some really powerful Impel Down escapees. Like, even in his old age, this dude is a true powerhouse, and in his prime, he was no slouch. He could rival Roger, Garp, and was most likely second in command to the legendary Roxy Zebek. So facing off against him, or really even some of his commanders, is an absolutely dreadful idea. But we did also see the secret to his defeat. It's not about taking him down, it's about destroying his mental state. Like, you're not gonna win if you're gonna square up with this beefcake. No, you're gonna have to pull a real Blackbeard and really mess with one of his sons. Meaning that if you can set up a situation where a huge army awaits him, he will be very stubborn and just head straight into it. He's not dumb, and you will lose a lot of people in the crossfire, but if you pack a big enough punch with enough powerful people, you will be able to take him out by just taunting him. However, I will say that there is one much easier option, something that Blackbeard and Squirt showed to us: deception. As in, Whitebeard is admittedly too loving. His kids can truly do no wrong, which means if you're full of true malice and power and have the will to betray someone and have a good enough poker face, you can tear this crew apart from the inside. Like, just gain Whitebeard's trust and appreciation, work your way up the ranks, and then just gut him like a fish once you've gotten within reach of him. Now, you will very likely die in the process, but hey, so will his crew. They are absolutely lost without their leader. It's a really long con, but it is the easiest path to victory. Just maybe make sure that Marco isn't nearby to heal Whitebeard, because that stupid pineapple hat would definitely ruin that plan. And that's the way. That's taking down the best of the best, but how about the beast of the beast? Because next up, we're talking about the Azure Dragon himself, Kaido. And I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to think of another way to defeat this man head-on than what we've already seen in the series, or what we will eventually see once the true story of God Valley is revealed as well. However, there is actually one other pretty simple solution that comes to mind that maybe Luffy and Co should have used. It's pretty vile, it's arguably the most evil thing in this video, and I really need to stress that I think this is the only way you could actually beat Kaido without throwing an entire nation's army, 3 massive pirate crews, and some freelance powerhouses at him at the same time. Basically, you know, Wano in a nutshell. And that secret weapon is booze. That's right. The safest way you defeat this beast of a dragon is from the inside out, meaning that you will have to spike his drink with something plain and simple. And it's gonna have to be something powerful. Like, if you can get him drunk enough or get his drink to knock him out, and you got a boat or a vehicle with a big enough chain, you just gotta drag him into the ocean and then drown him. Because I mean, you really can't throw weapons at him or drop him off a sky island. You can hardly hit the dude with conventional weapons at all, so you would need to have someone he trusts get in and then taint his liquor. But with King, Queen, and Jack around, he's not easy to get to in the first place. So the answer would probably be someone who is either already on the inside, or a character like Drake who has just the dinosaur powers to get on his good side as well. Now, in my personal opinion, if I could engineer Kaido's death, Yamato would be the ideal candidate. After all, she hates her father and would absolutely do whatever it takes to kill him. So just get some drugs in his system and you're probably good to go. Drag him to the ocean and then quickly roll him in there and see him bubble down. Unlike our next threat, the scariest woman on the ocean, Big Mom, because she's already probably one of, if not the hardest Yonko to square up against, if we're being honest. And that's because, weirdly enough, looking at her, she doesn't have that many weaknesses at all. I mean, she has absurd haki, even passively, a broken soul-stealing devil fruit, and a brutal, powerful crew and army. Like, in her own territory, she's just unstoppable. Even when she's out on the seas, she is nearly impossible to just get up against, especially in her prime, where she's faster and objectively a smaller target. Like Prime Big Mom, I think Law and Kid, they probably would have been manhandled pretty badly by this giant lady. So how do you handle her? Poison food? I mean, that could work, but I do think you'd have to get her to be mentally distraught to do so. She's not dumb at all, just the opposite, and has private chefs and an abundance of food at her disposal anyways. What I'm saying is, surely she knows that her greatest weakness is food, and she would have probably taken some real precautions. But if you starve her, well, then suddenly we're actually cooking. Haha. Because that would make her desperate enough to chow down on anything, including your own poisonous treats. But I think it could actually be even simpler than that. And the key here is an often forgotten rule of the One Piece world, because we do know that devil fruit users, besides Blackbeard that is, can't actually eat 2 devil fruits. But do you remember what they said happens if you try to eat one? Apparently, if you have a devil fruit and try to eat another one, you explode. And fruits, my dear viewers, are food last time I checked. So if you cook up a nice cake with one of these things in it, Big Mom should theoretically go boom. Like, technically, if you're trying to assassinate a devil fruit user, that's probably the way to do it. But here's the actual problem. That doesn't defeat her crew. Like, quite frankly, I think it would just rally them. They hate their mom. Like, are you kidding me? She sucks and rules with fear and power. Taking care of her would only actually make Katakuri, Smoothie, and Cracker more difficult to defeat, because they wouldn't have to live now in fear of their own Big Mama. So I guess this part would depend on who you are. I mean, if you're a good person and take care of the family, you're probably fine. But if you're Kaido or Blackbeard, they're definitely gonna come for your throat. But admittedly, without having to fear Linlin's wrath for attacking attacking her kids, defeating the crew wouldn't maybe be that hard if you are another Yonko crew, but she has one of the strongest, biggest crews, like she has spread in terms of power levels out of any of the Yonko, I think. And now though, it's time to talk about our favorite Yonko squad, the Straw Hats, and there is a reason why I saved them for last. Like, they are difficult to take down, man. Seriously, they are all powerful, the Grand Fleet is pretty strong, and defeating one or two members would probably boost the other members' determination and strength, if we're being honest. I mean, we literally saw exactly that happen with Nami and Robin during Wano, where coming for their boys drastically powered both of them up. I did mention earlier that the Straw Hats actually share a weakness with the Red Hair crew. The fact that they all love Luffy and want to achieve his dream can be a real Achilles heel, I think, but that's actually just a 50-50 chance, because if you threatened Luffy, it might just create a crew of absolute demons who, despite killing themselves in the process, would probably do everything in their power to absolutely annihilate you. Like, these people rally hard and they really don't even believe that Luffy can be defeated in the first place. The man has already died in front of them several times and they all just say, nope, he can't die, cry a little bit, and then he rubber bands back to life. Like, turns out defeating the protagonist crew is really difficult, okay? Who would have guessed? But I think there actually is a way, and it's because the actual biggest weakness of this crew is its size. Let's be real, the Straw Hats are too small, meaning that they constantly have to get out of dodge when bigger fleets show up, and the whole reason behind the coup de burst thing is this very reason. They have to be able to avoid large fleets of marines or pirates, which says a lot about their biggest weakness. It's not mentality, it's not power level, and it's not some cheeky poison or something else. It's just straight up smothering them out. Like, with the right piece of information, you could 100% destroy the Straw Hats with one Buster Call or a mid-ocean surprise attack. If you can literally block out the sun with cannonballs, you will be able to sink their battleship, as long as you aim for the engines and somehow disable the get out of free card, which is the coup de burst. Once that bad boy is taken care of, the Straw Hats are just sitting dead in the water. But no matter how you cut it, the Yonko, all of them, are really hard to defeat, but a group that might be easier to do might be the Admiral. So if you'd like to see how easy or hard it would be for Luffy to defeat all the admirals, and not just that, how easy it would be for him to do so one after the other without any breaks, well, you can check out that video right here for that idea. Needless to say, Luffy versus all of them requires a lot of crazy strategies. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my new Patreon supporters. We just very recently launched a new Patreon. If you want to check it out for any great rewards like our artwork, updates on our pixel art, bonus content monthly, I might do some live streams there, and so on and so forth. Like, if you want to support what we do here, this is a great way to check it out. And thank you so much to all of the Patreons already supporting us. It really means the world to me and really enables us to do what we're doing here. I will see you in the next one.